Yesterday, my spouse announced an open marriage and engaged in infidelity, leading me to file for divorce and request a DNA test. The sun streamed through the drapes, and a lingering headache dragged me from bed. I wobbled into the bathroom, consuming 2 aspirin and leaning against the sink, hoping my nauseous feelings would subside. I am Ron Jamin, and yesterday flipped my life upside down. Following an exhausting day at work, I entered our home, oblivious to the emotional devastation within. My wife, Chrissy, gazed at me with a blend of love and sorrow. She admitted to having been with another man for over a year. She portrayed their relationship as a lifeline for him, a man who lost his wife in a car accident while he miraculously survived. Chrissy recounted how she attempted to heal his shattered heart, how their bond evolved into love and eventually culminated in physical affection. She maintained that her feelings towards me remained unchanged and pledged to return when no longer required by this man. She vowed to stay with our children and me while managing her life between our family and her duty to this man, whom she believed would eventually depart. Her declaration struck me like a blow. In my dazed condition, I retaliated, hurling insults in a fruitless effort to comprehend the deceit. Chrissy's reaction was swift. She countered by accusing me of falling short in genuinely loving and supporting her, reminding me of our wedding vows. She contended that if I truly loved her, I would accept this predicament despite its pain. The discussion left me grappling with a tempest of emotions, doubting everything I believed about love, loyalty, and matrimony. Chrissy appeared disenchanted and enraged with me. I was infuriated, and to keep from attacking her, I began drinking and shouting. Once I had cooled down somewhat, I inquired about how she would react if I found another woman. "Who needs you?" Chrissy sneered contemptuously. "You're an overweight, middle-aged man with receding hair." She threatened to destroy me if I initiated divorce proceedings. I became enraged and bewildered about what action to take. My mind was in a complete whirlwind, unable to think rationally. I continued drinking and berating Chrissy. She gathered her belongings and declared, "I'm leaving to be with my lover until you cool down and accept the circumstances." I didn't recall much afterward. On our bed, I took a moment to assess the situation. Chrissy was correct. I was middle-aged, my hair was thinning, and I carried approximately 20 extra pounds. I couldn't alter my age, but I could take action regarding my weight and hair. First, I needed to locate my children. It was a Saturday morning, so they should be at home. After scouring the house, I realized they were absent. Where had Chrissy taken them? I was about to call her parents when I heard an engine in the driveway. It was Chrissy's car, and our kids emerged. Upon encountering Chrissy at the door, I found myself questioning their whereabouts. "You're fine, you're sober. Where were the kids?" I asked. She replied they were with her. She couldn't leave them with me. "Were they not at your lover's house?" I inquired accusingly. She cautioned me about my language. "They indeed were there. Her friend is kind, unlike you," she added. "Otherwise, she wouldn't have left the kids with you yesterday." "You make a valid point," I conceded. "But why didn't you take the kids to your parents' house instead?" Chrissy responded. "They weren't home." She then ascended the stairs, and I followed her. "Are you planning to stay here or going back to your lover?" I probed. "Ron, grow up," she retorted. "I've already told you how things are going to be. I won't discuss it further. Accept it or not. Even though you're acting foolishly, I still love you. When he no longer needs her, you'll have me back full time. So, what do we do now?" I tried to maintain my composure. "Currently, I'm gathering some belongings to stay with a friend for a few days until you settle down and accept the situation." "What about the children?" I attempted to guilt-trip her into staying, but she didn't budge. "If you don't wish to look after them, contact my parents. They will." Chrissy gathered more belongings and departed, leaving me on the verge of a mental breakdown. Yet, I knew I had to remain composed for the kids. I wasn't going to let Chrissy's infidelity go unchallenged. No self-respecting man would. Following Chrissy's exit, I inquired about the children's homework. They all moaned but consented to begin working when I promised a visit to their grandparents. Their grandparents, after all, enjoyed visiting because Pop was helping them construct go-karts. Chrissy's parents, Sam and Mary, resided on a modest farm nearby. Sam, a retired handyman, had a spacious workshop where they worked on the go-karts. At times, I assisted as well, given my certification as a mechanic at the local Ford dealership. I wished to speak with Chrissy's parents to ascertain if they were aware of her boyfriend and seek their counsel. Over the years, they had been more like surrogate parents to me as my actual parents lived far away. However, there was a concern they might align with Chrissy. I ensured the kids were completing their assignments, realizing how crucial they were to me. The eldest, Ron Jr., aged 16, was a football player, but not big enough for college scholarships. Sally, 15, typified a teenager and was an excellent student. Kyle, at 11, was an unexpected delight and had a carefree disposition. As the kids focused on their tasks, I prepared coffee and jotted down errands. I contacted my longtime boss, Bob Clarkson, to inform him about my predicament. I've been working at the dealership since it opened 23 years ago, with Bob as my superior for 15 years. He empathized, recalling his son navigating a complex divorce marked by false accusations from his ex-wife. "Oh," I lamented, "she is ruthlessly cold." "Indeed," Bob replied, echoing bitterness. "We anticipated the police to detain Gary for a week. These allegations are damaging and challenging to refute. The police always feel apprehensive when a woman accuses a man. In the end, it was Gary's ex-mother-in-law who saved him. When Carol told her mother that Gary abused his granddaughter, she thought it would ruin him. Known for being relentless but fair, Bev swiftly took her granddaughter to the doctor to check if she had been mistreated. The doctor found no evidence of abuse. Bev went to the police and threatened to testify against her daughter if charges were pursued. She also warned Carol that she would reveal her prescription drug issues, potentially leading to loss of custody. "Bless Bev," I exclaimed, surprised at what women can do to achieve their goals. "So be it," Bob responded. "If there's anything I can assist you with, just let me know. If possible, I will make it happen." I requested a week off, using my personal days and vacation time. Bob agreed and even offered additional time if necessary. "There is something else," I added. "I require a skilled divorce attorney." Bob suggested, "Consider the lawyer my son utilized. He managed to secure primary custody and the house for Gary, and Carol is now obliged to pay child support. His name is Dwight Tucker. I believe I still have his contact details." The more tumultuous my son's divorce became, the more frequently I heard Mr. Tucker's name while sleeping. Bob discovered Dwight Tucker's business card within a minute. Upon calling his office, I wasn't expecting anyone to be there on a Saturday, but fortune favored me. Not only was Mr. Tucker available, but his secretary informed me he had a last-minute cancellation and could meet me if I arrived promptly. I explained my sudden departure to the kids and asked them to behave. I made it to Mr. Tucker's office in 20 minutes. Upon arrival, Dwight Tucker, an attractive man in his mid-30s with deep blue eyes and a warm smile, welcomed me. I was confident he would appeal to the jury of women. "What can I assist you with today?" Dwight asked as I took my seat. "Yesterday, I told him I'd been unfaithful with a younger man, and he appeared both embarrassed and enraged. He narrated the events of the previous day to Dwight, who listened while shaking his head. When my wife declared her love for me, but intended to continue seeing this man, Dwight questioned, "You're saying your wife loves you yet wants to keep seeing him?" I confirmed this, and he encouraged me to proceed. I revealed that Chrissy grew angry when I rejected her plan. I acknowledged using offensive terms like strumpet and hooker. I recounted her laughter when I suggested the possibility of my finding another woman. She belittled me, stating no woman would want me, and threatened to ruin me if I attempted divorce. Dwight expressed disbelief. Did she actually say all that? He then suggested that either my wife is excessively insensitive or has severe psychological problems. "I don't mind," I replied wearily. "I concur with your sentiment." Subsequently, I disclosed how she had left our children at her lover's residence during our dispute and stayed there overnight. Dwight looked up, smiling before scribbling something down. "All right, the million-dollar question," he said, interlacing his fingers. I can't tolerate this situation, I responded after a brief pause. I'm unsure if I can forgive and forget, but I don't want to face a devastating divorce or lose my children. Dwight offered a compassionate nod. This is often the case for women facing divorce due to their actions, but I'll strive to reduce any potential harm. You will receive at least half of our joint possessions. Nevertheless, the courts don't take infidelity into account, so you might have to provide alimony and child support. Despite Dwight's assurance, I felt dejected, fearing I would be financially drained. Yes, it's a possibility, but that's why we need to act promptly, he said, scrutinizing his notes. Your spouse has deserted the matrimonial residence and placed your children with their lover, which is deemed unfavorable in certain judicial systems. Presently, you hold custody, and we aim to maintain it. I'll petition for a temporary emergency restraining order to enable you to remain in the house. The more time spent there, the stronger your case for primary custody. Does your spouse work? To which I replied, yes, she works part-time at the hospital on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, followed by, that's likely where she met this individual. Dwight concurred and inquired about her salary. I disclosed $25,000 annually, while I earn approximately $80,000. I need to pose a critical question, and I want you to consider it thoroughly, Dwight said, fixing his gaze on me. Do you still harbor feelings for her? Are you willing to attempt reconciliation? I cast my eyes downward for quite some time. When I looked up, tears were cascading down my face. Yes, I love her, but I cannot tolerate this predicament. She has dishonored me and breached her vows. You've asked for a divorce. Before we proceed, I have one more query. Could you list our assets? After pondering, I shared that we had approximately $3,500 in checking, $44,000 in savings, and a $20,000 CD jointly held. My 401k accounts to around $150,000, while Chrissy has slightly less in her retirement plan from her hospital job. Though the hospital provides better benefits generally, our company offers a superior healthcare plan that we utilize. We both share ownership of 2 cars and a house with minimal equity due to maxing out the loan when we purchased it some years back. Dwight then proposed a course of action, stating, withdraw half of the total savings, checking, and CD amounts, placing it in an account under your sole name. I responded by mentioning that I cannot access the CD without Chrissy's signature. Dwight suggested, in that case, withdraw $33,750 from the savings. Pay as many house bills as possible using the checking account. Divorce our shared credit cards and obtain a new one solely in your name. I replied, I possess a credit card from before our marriage. That's beneficial, Dwight expressed, with a smile. You won't require another card. Dwight scribbled instructions and passed them to me. Visit my secretary and ask her to contact Taylor Locksmith for changing the locks on your house. Afterward, return and we'll proceed further. Miss Carlson swiftly connected with Taylor Locksmith over the phone. They agreed to arrive by noon. I returned to Dwight's office as he concluded a call. Fortune favors us, he stated. If I send my documents today, we can secure Judge Johnson. Why is that fortunate? I asked. Because he detests cheaters. Dwight smiled. He's an old-fashioned judge who abhors infidelity. This helps our case. If Judge Johnson weren't available, I would have had to exert more effort. But my father knows him, so this works in our favor. Dwight extended his hand, and I accepted it gratefully. He suggested I handle my banking matters before departing. He was arranging an emergency restraining order against my wife, prohibiting her from entering our house or approaching within 500 feet of me or the children. Given her current absence with her lover and negligence towards the kids, this should aid in obtaining the order. However, it might be reversed later on, but by then, you'll have established yourself as the primary caregiver. By Friday, he would serve her with divorce papers. We would then observe her response. For the first time since Chrissy revealed her secret, I felt a sense of regaining control. The bank was quiet, allowing me to quickly obtain a cashier's check for my share of the funds and close our joint credit card, settling its $537 balance from the checking account. I also prepaid 2 months' mortgage installment, which cost another $2,600. Holding the cashier's check, I visited another bank to establish individual accounts. Upon returning home, my children were engrossed in TV. I ushered them into the car and drove to my in-laws. Sam greeted me from his workshop as the kids dashed towards him. Inside, Mary gave me a kiss. A moment later, Sam joined us. I have something difficult to share, I began. Chrissy is having an affair, and I'm initiating divorce proceedings. I don't trust you, Sam responded sharply. What evidence do you possess? She confided in me, I replied quietly, tears trickling down my face. At that instant, the kids returned. Step outside for a brief moment, please, I instructed them. Ron Jr., why? Ron Jr. inquired. Because I said so, I retorted more forcefully than intended. Realizing my distress, Ron Jr. swiftly hustled his siblings outdoors. Did she tell you? Mary questioned in disbelief. Yes, I affirmed firmly. I recounted the previous night's events, including Chrissy's threats and derogatory remarks. They were stunned, and Sam was enraged. I still don't believe it, he growled. Sam called Chrissy and placed the phone on the table. Hey, Dad, Chrissy replied cheerfully. What's up? Sam asked about Ron. Are you involved with him romantically? After a lengthy pause, Chrissy questioned. What had he said? He implied you were intimate with another man and loved him. It's complicated, she bejed. I'm trying to assist someone who has experienced a devastating event. Sam's face turned red. Are you having intimate relationships with him or not? We have been intimate, but I still love Ron. I can't abandon this person right now. I also care about him. I was taken aback. I thought Chrissy was her father's favorite, and I expected Sam to defend her. Chrissy, Sam's voice was hoarse. I never imagined my daughter would behave immorally. Dad, please, she begged, but Sam ended the call. A short while later, the phone rang again. Mary stepped forward to answer it. Ignore it, Sam ordered, but Mary picked it up anyway. In the heat of the moment, Sam seized the phone from her grasp, hurling it toward the fireplace. Stop meddling, he bellowed. Taken aback by her spouse's fury, she recoiled. I found myself similarly stunned. The room echoed with an unsettling quietness as Sam and Mary absorbed the revelation. Eventually, Sam embraced me. Ron, my apologies. I can scarcely believe our daughter acted so recklessly against you. We'll do whatever we can to assist you. Mary will converse with her later and update you on the outcome. For now, I'm too enraged to engage with her. Before departing to meet the locksmith, I ushered the children into the car, shared a farewell hug with Sam and Mary, and extended an invitation for dinner to further discuss the matter. On our journey home, Sally wept inconsolably. Are you and Mom splitting up? I inquired. From me, Ron Jr. retorted defiantly. Upon returning, I discreetly slipped back inside to eavesdrop. I exhaled, recognizing that they deserved the truth, but uncertain about how to disclose it without causing unnecessary harm. Oh dear, Chrissy. They deserve to know, but finding a delicate way to tell them is crucial. She hadn't considered the children while she was with her new partner, said I. It seems we will be getting a divorce, I whispered gently to Kyle. But why? He wailed. Your mother has found herself in love with another man, I clarified. Are you saying they're having sex with each other? Sally sobbed. I hate her. She's vile. Sally, please don't curse your mother like that, I cautioned, even though I shared the sentiment. The locks were altered at the right moment. 10 minutes after, Chrissy stormed into the driveway. Did you tell my parents about this? She bellowed. I bet you called me a whore and a prostitute, Chrissy shouted. But I thought we loved each other. Chrissy, I said with sorrow, my affection for you is boundless, but I can't accept you having another man. You wounded me deeply when you labeled me as an unattractive middle-aged man that no woman wanted. Your pity love is unwelcome. Also, you threatened to damage my reputation. How can you claim to love me? If you feel certain about the morality of your actions, their approval by others should not be a concern. Chrissy appeared distressed. All right, I'm sorry, I didn't intend to say those things. She attempted to make amends. I was just upset because you called me a prostitute and a whore. You vowed to love, respect, and value me. Disgraceful of you. If you truly cared for me, you'd acknowledge the circumstances. I don't, he responded coldly. Leaving you for another man. I simply love him as well, trying to aid him. He is younger and will eventually move on. Chrissy, I said dismissively, shaking my head. If you're going to reference our vows, recall that you pledged to abandon all others. A married woman does not sleep with young men simply because they are in distress. I have accepted that you are damaged goods, and I no longer wish you in my life. Chrissy blushed and seemed unsure, but then her eyes flashed with renewed arrogance. She was panting, obviously trying to devise her next counterargument. At that moment, I regretted my love for her, yet it remained profound. Ron, Chrissy spoke with a tone she used with children, cease your foolishness. I'm your spouse. I love you, and I will return to you when this man recovers. My heart was heavy, but my affection for her had morphed into raw anger. No, Chrissy, I no longer recognize you. My wife was loving and faithful. You, I can't identify. To me, it seems like one of many infidelities. I can no longer trust you. Chrissy's face turned red with fury. This is not an affair, and he's the first person I've been intimate with since we wed. He's injured, and I will aid him whether you approve or not. Act as you wish. I do not accept this. I can no longer trust you, so I will arrange for a DNA test on the children to confirm they are mine. You are abhorrent, Chrissy retorted. This situation is going to become very hostile. Remember what I warned about divorce. I'd rather live in penury than be with an immoral woman, I replied, gazing at her. She appeared oblivious to the impending penalties. In that instant, a sheriff's cruiser stopped. A deputy stepped towards Chrissy. Are you Chrissy Jammin? He inquired. Yes, Chrissy replied, puzzled. Madam, this is a restraining order. You are prohibited from entering the house and must maintain a 500 feet distance. Do you comprehend? She questioned. But that's my residence, Chrissy lamented. All my possessions are indoors. The deputy responded, You have 15 minutes to pack your belongings. I acknowledged with a nod. I plan to take the children to the backyard, I stated. I wish to see my children, Chrissy exclaimed frantically. Madam, the deputy explained, the restraining order is intended to safeguard your children from you. Enraged, Chrissy turned towards me. You are responsible for this. You're taking away my children. No, it was your actions, I responded serenely. You deserted our home and left our children unattended at your lover's place. I didn't desert our home, and he's an exceptional man, Chrissy retorted loudly. I'm assisting him by sharing a bed with him. If he's so great, move in with him and offer him your affection. To which I retorted, not so much for Chrissy, but rather the deputy, implying that perhaps he only desires you for gratification at a low cost. I took the children to the backyard and explained they were witnessing their mother packing to go live with her new partner's house, but I would permit them to see her before she departed. Upon bringing them out front, Kyle wept profusely and dashed into his mother's embrace, pleading for her not to leave. Please, Ron, Chrissy cried tearfully. Can't you see the damage you're causing the children? Although anger surged within me, I suppressed it. Stop discussing the kids. I haven't harmed them in any way. You took them to your lover's house while with him. Ron, Chrissy lamented. Why can't you grasp that I can't desert him? She sobbed. Chrissy, you have already abandoned your husband, your children, and your home. It's time for us to do the same to you. You failed to consider the repercussions of your actions, and now you must bear them. Ron Jr. inquired as to the reason why. Chrissy attempted to reason with her son, yet he seemed unconvinced. Conversely, Sally verbally lashed out at her mother, calling her a self-centered witch and spitting on her face. I intervened to prevent Sally from assaulting Chrissy, but she refused to apologize. Caught off guard, Chrissy collapsed onto the ground crying. Recent disagreements between Sally and Chrissy, I presumed, were just typical teenage defiance. Now I was concerned that their relationship might be irreparably harmed. As I restrained Sally, Chrissy stormed out to her car and drove off angrily, pounding the steering wheel. Kyle attempted to pursue her, shouting, "Mommy, don't abandon us," but I managed to bring him back. The deputy expressed sympathy towards me. "Mr. Jamin, I truly regret what you're experiencing." That evening, Sam and Mary arrived for dinner. In anticipation of grilling burgers, I surrendered the kitchen to Mary, who prepared meatloaf and her renowned macaroni and cheese, which the children adored. Whilst Mary prepared dinner, Sam and I shared a couple of beers in the lounge room, and Sam appeared visibly upset over his daughter's behavior. I explained the restraining order situation to him, detailing how Chrissy had left her children unsupervised at her lover's place. This news seemed to further distress Sam. He eventually disclosed that Mary had spoken with Chrissy about an hour after we parted ways. "How did it go?" I inquired. "Terribly," Sam replied. "Mary attempted to reason with Chrissy, but she was adamant that she was right and everyone else was wrong. She thinks we're all awful people." Mary grew furious and told Chrissy not to contact us anymore, and even threatened to testify against her in court. Consequently, the meal was rather somber. The only bright spot occurred when Sam suggested the kids visit the next day to work on their go-karts, which brought joy to Ron Jr. and Kyle. Sally, however, sat with a scowl on her face and refused to eat. I chose to ignore her sullen behavior, knowing she was hurting just as much as I was. On Friday, Chrissy received divorce papers at the hospital. Friends informed me that she exhibited aggressive behavior towards a process server and threatened to retaliate against me. She was escorted away, or more accurately, sent to her lover's residence. Chrissy retained lawyer Amber Wright, whom Dwight was acquainted with. He opined that she lacked the skill set she believed herself to possess. Amber attempted to revoke the restraining order, but Judge Johnson merely amended it, granting supervised visits at a location devoid of her boyfriend's presence. He cautioned her about any potential violations that could terminate her visitation rights. Initially elated, Chrissy's happiness diminished as Judge Johnson mandated child support payments, compelling her to resume full-time employment. Despite her outburst at the hospital, she was likely to be reinstated due to the nursing shortage and her proficiency. Post-hearing, the DNA test results were delivered. It took me nearly half a day to open the envelope. Upon opening it, I felt an overwhelming sense of joy. My children were indeed biologically mine. I repeatedly read the report to confirm my findings. Recognized that my love for my children would remain constant regardless of outcomes. If Chrissy returned from her relationship, I wouldn't offer forgiveness. She was a negative influence and needed distancing from the kids. I utilized all my personal days and vacations to be with the kids. Once depleted, Chrissy's parents stepped in. Sam and Mary refused interaction with Chrissy until she changed her ways. Following numerous daily calls, Sam blocked her number. The visitation arrangement was left for Chrissy and me to arrange, which meant our lawyers conveyed our wishes. We agreed that Chrissy could visit on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays between 6 and 7 p.m. Mary offered supervision, but I insisted on being present for the initial visit to establish guidelines. On the first Monday, an unfamiliar car pulled up, presumably belonging to her lover. She approached the house anxiously and offered a timid greeting. "Hello, Ron. How are you, mother?" "Good to see you, Chrissy." "You need to depart," I barked. "The judge prohibits your partner from being within 500 feet of this residence." Disbelief crossed her features. He was merely dropping me off. "Are you oblivious?" My anger spiked. The judge's instructions were explicit. "No partner here. Inform him to depart instantly, or I won't inform the judge." Chrissy nodded hastily and retreated to the car. I stepped out and jotted down the license plate number, then re-entered our porch as the vehicle drove away. "Fine, he'll come back for me later," Chrissy asserted defiantly. "Instruct him to meet you around the block. I don't desire him near the residence." Chrissy's face hardened. "Ron, I'm weary of your treatment. You didn't need to appropriate funds from our bank account or deactivate my credit card." "Chrissy, I didn't steal anything. The money was employed to settle the credit card debt and cover 2 mortgage payments. I intended to secure a home for the children while we worked things out. Regarding canceling the credit card, I didn't want to be burdened with any expenses you might incur while with someone who isn't my affair partner or lover. Chrissy's face turned red with anger and haughtiness. This isn't an affair, and he isn't my lover. You're being petty. Before I could reply, Mary intervened and slapped Chrissy across the face. Both Chrissy and I were shocked as she retreated, bewildered, staring at her mother. Chrissy, if you ever disrespect Ron again, I will remove your dress and spank your bottom until it turns red. If you want to see the kids in the living room, I'll talk to Ron first and then join you. Just a warning, if you say or do anything inappropriate, I will evict you from this house. Chrissy nodded submissively and went inside. Ron, I apologize for my foolish daughter, Mary said empathetically. Thanks for defending me, I said gratefully, then I departed. 2 weeks later, the restraining order was lifted, as Dwight had mentioned. By that point, I had become the principal caretaker and was granted residence in the household. Meanwhile, my child support payments continued since I was still seeing my partner. Although I could take the children out in public without supervision, I couldn't bring them to my partner's home or have him present. After a 4-month wait, our initial court date for finalizing the divorce arrived. Before the lawyers began their arguments, Judge Johnson inquired if we had attended counseling sessions. Admittedly, we hadn't, prompting the judge to mandate 8 rounds of marital therapy. Neither I nor Chrissy objected, though I felt these sessions were pointless. I kept quiet to avoid the judge's displeasure. It seemed that Chrissy hoped she could persuade me or the therapist that her actions were justified. The first session with therapist Ann Patterson unfolded much as I anticipated. Chrissy spent most of the time arguing that her behavior was in line with Christian teachings, leaving Ann visibly surprised by her arrogance. In the second week, Ann delicately challenged Chrissy's views, inquiring if it would be just if I began engaging in intimate relations with another woman. I winced, anticipating an assault on my masculinity, but this time there was none. Chrissy didn't respond immediately, but I didn't mind. The protracted divorce had prompted some modifications. When the woman you adore tells you that you're not sufficient, you wish to disprove it. Therefore, I underwent a hair transplant operation. It amounted to approximately $4,000, and I hesitated, not wanting to encounter ridicule. However, as I was still on vacation, I decided to proceed. My hair was closely shorn, followed by the planting of plugs from the back and the front. I remained at home for the initial week, informing the children it was a minor medical operation. After 10 days, I resembled my previous self, and my hair grew longer with each passing week. Post-recovery, I started exercising and running. Initially, I could only manage half a mile, but later on, I could run up to 10 miles. I also joined a gym and opted for healthier food choices for our meals. Initially, the children grumbled, yearning for fast food, cookies, ice cream, and pizza. Finding amusing, nutritious recipes online, some attempts didn't succeed well, leading us to laugh, abandon them, and prepare sandwiches instead. Cooking together transformed into a family engagement. Although Chrissy's deception caused me distress, I gradually regained self-confidence. On my return to work, my self-esteem received an uplift. The receptionist, Trudy, displayed an odd gaze, yet spared me from teasing about my new hairstyle. "Welcome back, Ron," she cheerfully said. Her eyes scrutinized me next. "There's something unusual about you," I blushed slightly. "I've been on a diet," I admitted. "I've shed 18 pounds and aim for another 5. She chuckled and nodded. "It truly fits you. If I weren't married, I'd be attracted to you." Appreciation for the confidence boost, but my wife allegedly finds me unattractive, having found a lover herself. I attempted humor in response, but it lacked impact. Everyone at the company was aware of my predicament. A grim cloud passed over Trudy's face. "Chrissy is either an imbecile or crazy. You, Ron, are a fine man and many women would be delighted to be with you. Don't let Chrissy sway your thoughts." This was the best encouragement I'd received in months. Suddenly, I didn't feel like such a failure. I was pulled back to reality when Anne inquired about my wife again. "Chrissy, how would you feel if Ron came home and informed you he was with another woman?" As I had anticipated, Chrissy didn't launch an attack on my masculinity, but I did notice her glancing at me during our initial encounter. It seemed she could no longer criticize my receding hairline or weight gain. This was another confidence booster for me. I merely sat in my chair, waiting as Chrissy appeared to contemplate her response. She couldn't very well argue that I wasn't allowed another woman if she had another man. If he was attempting to aid that woman in healing from a tragedy, she stated haughtily, I'd find it tolerable. What if he admitted his love for this woman and claimed their intimacy was exceptional? Once more, I would acquiesce, Chrissy persisted, but he must promise to look after the children and me. The discussion proceeded in this manner, with Anne trying to make Chrissy understand her stance was illogical. However, Chrissy remained steadfast. As expected, these discussions were proving futile. They seemed designed merely to persuade me of Chrissy's rightness. This initial shock had started to dissipate. Love is peculiar, it withers if not nurtured. By the third week, something shifted. Chrissy arrived at the session in a more subdued manner and spoke little. Primarily, she listened. Whatever had transpired, it seemed to have momentarily set Chrissy back. Perhaps her arrogance lessened due to Anne tactfully and empathetically contradicting her at each instance. Additionally, I noticed Chrissy surreptitiously examining me on occasions when she assumed I wasn't looking. In the interim, I persisted with my exercise routine, shedding a few extra pounds. I had also been immersed in numerous gardening tasks, which left me sun-kissed. A couple of months before the therapy sessions were mandated, I implemented another alteration. I was growing increasingly discontent with my job. Despite my love for repairing cars, not just their engines, I yearned for more family time. I'd been refurbishing old vehicles since I turned 14. I possessed the skills to handle all aspects of car repair. Now, owning my own business seemed a means to spend more time with my children. After discussing it with Sam, he offered his assistance. My dream was to establish my own workshop and cultivate a business, but I couldn't leave my job immediately for this endeavor. We lacked the funds to support ourselves until the business became profitable. Otherwise, we would have starved before I could make it successful. Since Sam's workshop, previously a horse barn in an industrial area, permitted my business initiation, I took advantage of it. Sam, who had converted his barn into a tinkering shop, provided sufficient space for both of us. He was willing to lease me land along the road for constructing my own building once my business was stable. I observed their setup at work to prepare myself, as the dealership catered to a larger volume than expected. They performed some bodywork on site, but outsourced most of it. Considering this, I minimized the required tools and equipment. Construction of a paint booth was indispensable for my venture. Sam not only approved but assisted in its construction. Utilizing funds from our shared savings and a small loan from Sam, I financed the business venture. Initially, I operated part-time, primarily on weekends and evenings. It was an enjoyable experience, with the kids frequently stopping by to observe or assist. I took pleasure in teaching Ron Jr. various skills. Even Sally wasn't shy about getting her hands dirty and relished telling her friends about swapping engines or helping paint a Corvette. This added to her intrigue among schoolboys. I gained clients through word of mouth, leading me to contemplate if I should start working full-time. The final decision became crucial when I was asked to work over the weekend to clear some pending tasks. However, I couldn't comply because I had my own customers to attend to. I anticipated being dismissed when I informed Bob that I couldn't work due to business commitments. "Got a moment, Bob?" I inquired, peeking into his office. "Of course, Ron," he invited me in. "I appreciate your weekend efforts. We have 44 cars arriving on Friday that need thorough inspection and preparation. By the month's end, they need to be removed." A small twinge passed over me upon hearing this. Many individuals don't understand that dealerships receive unique incentives from factories when a certain number of cars are sold within a specific month. For instance, the factory might state, "Should you sell 300 vehicles this month, we'll reduce your cost by $150. That equals a saving of $45,000. However, if the dealership sells 299 cars or less, they receive no discount. This was vital to their operations. Indeed, Bob, I explained, feeling sweat drip down my spine. I'm unable to work this weekend as I have commenced a personal business on weekends and have prior obligations. I apologize, Ron Bob, he said tersely. However, if you can't work this weekend, it might lead to your termination. I comprehend, Bob, I replied somberly. I merely hope there are no lingering resentments. I've been striving to establish a business of my own. I wish to invest more time with my children and augment their college funds. I'm vacating my locker. You mentioned sadly, Ron. It's hard to see you go, was Bob's response. Could you tell me about your venture, its location, and the sort of tasks it entails? You divulged that your business was set up on your father-in-law's land, describing the machinery and tools at your disposal. Your setup catered to almost any car repairs, including bodywork. Bob then suggested, go grab a coffee, then return here, as he reached for his phone. Since you weren't in the mood for coffee, you headed to your locker, gathered your belongings, and put them in a box instead. Losing this job would mean tight times ahead. The kids would need to be shifted onto Chrissy's health insurance as you had taken her off yours. Regardless, you felt optimistic, for you were turning down nearly as much business as you were accepting. Bob gestured you into his office upon seeing you approach the hallway. I have a proposition for you, Ron, he said eagerly. If you work over the weekend, we'll compensate for any financial loss due to displeased customers. I declined, unable to compromise my customer service. Bob paused, then pushed a contract towards me. He emphasized the need for my presence this weekend and believed I could persuade customers to delay their service. If I fulfilled these conditions and passed our inspection, they would hire me as an independent contractor for bodywork assignments. Stunned, I accepted the offer. From then on, I was largely working full-time in my own business. Periodically, I visited the dealership if there were issues or when I wasn't occupied. Additionally, Sam joined me part-time, while Mary agreed to manage my books. As a result, I earned more than ever while working for the dealership. The only aspect of my life still unresolved was my marriage. Following the fourth counseling session, I considered terminating it. I no longer cared much about Chrissy's actions with her new partner, but the thought of my wife with another man still caused a pang. In our fifth counseling session, I chose an offensive approach. My aim was to provoke Chrissy so severely that she might end these fruitless sessions. I decided to challenge her about the most painful thing she had said, that I was not attractive enough to find another woman. As Anne asked if I had anything to say, I attacked Chrissy harshly. Chrissy, I stated, you're not only selfish, but also vile. How dare you tell the man you claim to love that he is an unattractive, middle-aged man no woman would ever desire? You have wounded me in a way that I don't believe I can recover from. Oh God, Ron, she wept. I am so sorry. I am so ashamed I ever said that. If I could take it back, I would. But I do not love you enough to leave your lover. Keep your apologies to yourself. You need them more than I do, I retorted sharply, causing Chrissy to break into inconsolable tears. Despite our attempts to console her, she remained distraught. In the end, Anne decided to call off the session, but assigned us tasks to complete before the next one. I was hesitant about this assignment as I felt these sessions were a mere waste of time. The task involved answering a set of questions. Questions like our relationship with parents and sexual life made sense, but others like my favorite food, drink, or car left me puzzled. However, one question gave me pause. It asked, if you could change one thing, what would it be? I postponed completing the questionnaire after reading this query. I wanted to ponder over it for a while. The next day, I wrote that I wished I had been a better spouse so my partner wouldn't have lost affection towards me. During the following meeting, we submitted our assignments, but Anne didn't examine them. Instead, she initiated the discussion by inquiring if we had any queries or desired topics. I have a question for Chrissy, I stated promptly. Anne signaled her approval, and I faced my estranged spouse. Chrissy, it appears these sessions aren't resolving anything. You've made it clear that you won't leave your friend Bruce Hartman, which leaves no hope for reconciliation. Couldn't we just conclude this and finalize the divorce? How do you know his name? Chrissy asked, taken aback. The first time you visited the children, I obtained his license plate number. After that, it was relatively easy to discover his identity. However, it's not relevant. I have no intention of retaliating against him or communicating with him. I simply don't care anymore. I want to move forward. Chrissy looked at me with the saddest eyes I believe I've ever seen. I felt distress witnessing her in agony, yearning to comfort her by embracing her, yet realizing that such action wouldn't resolve anything, so I persevered. I acknowledge your legal representative isn't satisfied with the settlement I've proposed thus far. Indeed, I've instructed my attorney to propose other options. I'm prepared to grant you more visitation rights with the children. Additionally, I'm offering you $1,000 per month in alimony for 3 years. All I want is your departure from my life at any price. However, Chrissy displayed only deep sorrow upon observation. She had unequivocally declared her intention to continue seeing the man, and I could neither accept nor tolerate my wife engaging in intimate relations with another individual. Frankly, I couldn't fathom how she could possibly envision me enduring such a situation. At this juncture, it was irrelevant. All I sought was an exit. Deciding to terminate this charade, I initiated efforts to bring it to a conclusion. I am aware that some of what you said about me holds truth. The pain you caused me was immense when you said it, and I told you I didn't believe I'd ever recover. However, as time passes, I've come to realize that I am healing. You can observe my efforts at self-improvement. I no longer believe I'm the man you held in contempt when you began seeing Bruce. I've also started dating again. Once our divorce is finalized, feel free to prioritize your new companion for as long as desired, but it seems it's time to conclude this relationship. The main reason being that it allows you to reconnect with your children. With those words, Chrissy broke down and left the room. Anne appeared just as bewildered as I was. Eventually, Anne requested a separate meeting with Chrissy for the next session, followed by one with me alone for the last session. Exhaling heavily, I conceded. When Chrissy shared all this with me, my anger and resentment were overwhelming. But now, several months later, I feel only exhausted. I recognized the suffering this predicament was causing, not only for me, Chrissy, her parents, but most significantly, our kids. I wished to put an end to it. Additionally, I no longer harbored anger towards Chrissy for being intimate with another man. Upon my last encounter with Anne, I felt relief that Chrissy wasn't present and that this would mark the conclusion of the counseling. Ron, Anne started, I want to acknowledge your self-control throughout these sessions. She continued, I comprehend how excruciatingly painful this situation has been for you. After meeting with Chrissy last week, I believe I finally grasp what occurred in your marriage. As I sat on the edge of my chair, perhaps I would uncover why Chrissy chose to shatter our union. Do you recall the assignment I gave you? She queried, and I simply nodded, having overlooked it and presumed it had minimal impact in these therapy sessions. Anne expressed surprise at your responses to a specific question. If you could change one thing, what would it be? Do you recall this? You had mentioned that you wished to have been a better husband so your wife wouldn't have lost affection for you. Upon hearing this, Chrissy wept more intensely than usual. It took some time for me to console her. I was at a loss for words and actions, thus I remained silent. Ron, she said, your wife never stopped loving you. In response, you sarcastically stated, yes, that's why she's sleeping with Bruce now, and gave you a disapproving look before sighing. Ron, what I learned about Chrissy is that she was going through a profound midlife crisis. As the children were growing up, Chrissy felt her life slipping away from her. She is, and I believe she always has been, a compassionate and nurturing individual. At some point, she came across Bruce, who was in dire need of her empathy. She mistook her longing for youth and his urgent plea for absolution over his wife's demise as love. This doesn't alter anything, I argued, or perhaps she isn't involved with Bruce. Not true, Ron, Anne clarified. Actually, they aren't together. This was surprising information. Then why didn't Chrissy inform me? Anne sighed. I understand this won't affect your sentiments at this juncture, but you should know the entire truth. Bruce departed town on the very day you told Chrissy you intended to start dating and were eager to finalize the divorce. She assumed she had already lost you. I pondered over it, but Anne was correct. It didn't sway my viewpoint. Too many events had transpired to rewind. I had regained control of my life, and I wished to progress. I could no longer trust Chrissy, and I didn't want to live in such a manner. Above all, I wanted the children to reconnect with their mother once more. Sally's grades have significantly deteriorated since this incident occurred, and she remains upset with her mother. Kyle has become withdrawn, sad, and disruptive at school, which might be the most severe impact of Chrissy's actions. Kyle is no longer the cheerful boy he used to be. Ron Jr. seems to cope the best in this situation. He isn't angry or withdrawn, but tends to divert conversations when his mother's name arises. Maybe I'm mistaken. It could be that his reaction is more detrimental than the girl's. I simply can't say for certain. And then presented another paper saying, "This is Chrissy's response to a question regarding changing one thing." She stated that if she could change one thing, it would be that she had never met Bruce Hartman. The divorce was finalized, and according to the agreement, Chrissy visited the kids on Wednesdays and Fridays. I always ensured to take the children out on Fridays prior to Chrissy's arrival. Initially, our interactions were stiff and uncomfortable, but eventually we began having meals together with the kids. One night, Chrissy inquired if she could spend the night. "No," I replied, chuckling. "The bed in the guest room isn't particularly comfortable. It would be best for you to return home. Additionally, there will never be an occasion where we are alone together." As for Bruce Hartman, his tale had some inaccuracies. His wife didn't merely leave him. She was enraged after discovering his infidelity and sped away in her car, eventually crashing and dying. Why did he relocate? I suppose it was due to a brutal beating he received outside a local bar. He suffered 5 broken ribs, a fractured kneecap, missing teeth, and 2 damaged testicles. I had to request assistance from friends. It was worthwhile. The beating guaranteed that he would never be with another woman, let alone satisfy any. As for Chrissy, she managed to rekindle a loving bond with her children, specifically Sally and Kyle. However, there always seemed to be a distance between her and Ron Jr. Sally, surprisingly, welcomed her mother with open arms, while Chrissy repaired her relationship with her parents, albeit maintaining a slight distance with her father. We often shared meals as a family on Sundays, but it wasn't quite like that. Chrissy constantly apologized for past transgressions. I eventually asked her to stop. "I can never forgive you," I told her, "and your attempts at reconciliation are futile." I implored her to grow up, as the matter had been settled. "Accept it or not, the decision is yours. Our relationship will never be rekindled again, not even if you were the last human alive and the survival of humanity hinged on us being intimate, I would decline." 3 years later, I wed Sally's teacher. The specifics of our meeting and subsequent events can wait for another occasion, but the crucial aspect is the children's affection for her and their acceptance of her as a family member. Chrissy struggles to acknowledge my new relationship, but I have no plans to intervene. The matter has been settled. She can either accept it or not.